Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Hey everybody, this is Jennifer with Midwest Wilderness Connections, and I wanted to show you guys what I did today. I'm planting native plants all around my yard. I've been doing this for this is the third year, and so you can see, like, I have some nodding fescue, which is kind of a woodland savanna type plant that likes it a little more shady, that came up in a previous seeding. Some of these taller guys back here, these are figworts. So I've got stuff that's popping up, but if you know anything about native plants, one of the things is that it takes longer for the native plants to come up by seed. It could take several years. Some of the plants, especially the ones that people like that are really small, like the early spring bloomers, I mean, they could sit in the soil and wait for the right conditions for 10, 20 years, and then all of a sudden they're going to pop up. So what I love about seeding versus planting actual plants is that I never quite know what's going to come up when, so I get a lot of little surprises. The other thing is I'm not battling rabbits and other things with plants that I planted, and the sense of failure when they come in and they gnaw them all down to the ground, or deer or things of that sort. When you seed, what comes up, and usually does fairly well. It may still get nibbled on, but it doesn't psychologically seem to bother me quite as much as, if I spent money and planted plants, and you put so much time and effort in that. So, but what you see is here, I'm going to show you guys a picture, but I took my native seed and I mixed it with, in this case, I just mixed it with, I had some excess potting soil, like it was like the Miracle Grow type that does not have fertilizers and things. Or, well, this one may have, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal with what I'm doing here. But you can actually see the grass seed. Now, I had two separate, and in the photo you're going to see, I had two separate bowls. I had one with all the flower, it's called Forbes, the flower seed, and I planted that along the front of the garden. So I split seeded. So towards the front of the garden, all the really pretty, showy, colorful stuff. And then in the back, I did a row. The back row is where I seeded the grasses, because they're going to be taller, kind of dense. So I want them more, because this is an urban setting in a garden, it needs to have a different appearance than if I was just out on a prairie preserve, or I was out on farmland and restoring, where I would just mix everything together so they were well distributed together. Over time, these grasses will start, they're going to creep in to the flowers and vice versa, back and forth. But, I'll deal with that when the time comes. For now, I've seeded them together. And here's the flower seed. But you can see it's hard to tell the difference between the flower seed and the soil. But you might ask yourself, why in the world is she putting seed out now when it's snowing in the dead of winter? So it's January 10th today, and I am in the Midwest, kind of east central Illinois. And the reason being is that a lot of the flowers, I'm going to move, I'll keep moving while I talk, but a lot of the flowers that are going to be in your wildflower mixes, the native mixes, require what is called cold, moist stratification. So stratification is what is necessary for that seed, the seed from that flower, to break germination and start growing. And so a lot of them require cold, moist, which means the seed has to have a certain amount of time where it's cold and damp. And so, and different plants, there's a different amount of time. Some of these plants don't need much, maybe a couple weeks is fine. Some need at least 30 days, some need at least 60 days, some need more than 90 or 120. So the sooner you can get the seed out in the winter, the better. I waited for our first major snow. So we had our first major snow with that big system that came through last week. and got about 4.5 inches of snow out of that in our location. And so today you can see it's snowing again. We're going to get another 1 to 3 inches, so it's perfect. So what I did is I came out, I sprinkled the seed on top of the, the old snow, and as you can see, the new snow is coming in and burying it. So that's going to hide it from birds, any other seed-eating organisms. Of course, it's not going to stop everything from finding them or eating them, but it helps to protect it. And then what's going to happen is, because the seed is dark, like right now it's warm because it was in the house, and so you can see here where I put the seed, it's starting to melt, and it's melting down. And as the temperatures rise, the seed, because it's dark, is going to absorb heat and the sunlight, and is going to sink through the snow to the ground. And what happens is, over winter, as the weather keeps changing and it gets a little warmer, and then it gets cold again, warmer, cold again. That's called a freeze-thaw cycle. And what happens is, every time that freeze-thaw happens, it draws the seed tighter and tighter to the soil. And one of the most important things about getting seed to germinate and grow is seed to soil contact. Because if that seed doesn't have really good contact with the soil, it doesn't have good contact with moisture and nutrients and things of that sort. It can dry out, desiccate, and that's not what you want. So that's why I'm seeding in the winter. And I seeded as early as I could. I could have stratified the seed. I could have mixed it with sand, like very, very well drained out, damp but not wet, but a damp sand, mixed it, put it in my fridge for a while. But I didn't do that. I just said, I'm just going to put it out. Anything that doesn't germinate this year, because maybe I didn't have 120 days between now and the spring, then if it doesn't germinate this year, as long as it doesn't get eaten or run out of its own reserves within the seed, it will go through additional stratification next year and then come up maybe in 2 years. So instead of coming up this summer, it'll come up and grow next summer. And some plants actually need 2 or 3 years of that, of warm. It's called warm moist. So that would be like in the spring, in the summer germination, where it's warm and moist. Some species of plants, I know a shrub that I wanted to grow is like this, wahoo, eastern wahoo, which is a really beautiful native shrub that has pretty fruits that are colorful, so they give you really good color in the fall and winter. But they need several years where you get the flip-flop back and forth, where you get warm, moist stratification followed by cold, moist stratification, followed up by warm, moist again, and then cold, moist again. Like 2 or 3 years of that back and forth before it's going to germinate. So before you put seed out, and if you've got plants that you really want to see immediately, there's some plants that then you're just going to have to put the actual plants out, and I wouldn't go seed in that instance. But I'm just going to show you some things that have come up. The previous owners had planted, it is native, it's blackberry, it's taking over. And so what I have actually been doing, I've been slowly thinning it out, and what we're going to do is take some of it, dig up some of it, and put it in a part of the yard where it can't spread like this. So at some point I'm going to do natives all the way through here. Just beyond it there at the front porch, along the front of the house, I've got natives there as well. Maybe I'll go over there in a second. But these are the seed heads of the figwort, which are really pretty. So that was in one of my seed mixes. What was not in my seed mix, this is the seed head of white vervain. It was just, it's native, but it's a little weedy. But not the kind of weed that is going to drive you crazy and have you out trying to pull it from your gardens. Another native that is out here, and do I have snow on my lens? I might have snow on my lens, but this is garden phlox. and it's really spreading. It's kind of becoming a problem for me. I have to do something with that. I don't know if this is in one of my mixes. I'm going to have to go through and look, but this is one of the native woodland shrubs, like buckbrush, or coralberry. Sorry, coralberry. What was in a seed mix, these are the seed heads of Virginia wild rye. And you can see they're pretty, it's not focusing, but it's pretty picked over. So obviously the birds and things have had fun with that. I also have back here, I do have some cocklebur. I need to get that out of there. Or not cocklebur. The name of that weed, it's like cocklebur, where the little deals stick to you. I gotta get that out. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Here's some more of the Virginia wild rye from previous plantings. Let's see if it's gonna pop and let you see it. There we go. That's a seed head. From here I can't tell how well it's showing you. There's also fern in here. This is something that the previous owner had. It's ostrich fern. That's actually pretty common. As you can see, I've got a historical house that we're renovating, and you get a lot of that in coming up around historic homes. That seemed to be a favorite for old Victorian homes. I'm gonna walk around. Here's another good one. This is a good, I don't know if you guys can see this guy here. This is bottlebrush grass. This is a grass that grows in woodlands and woodland edge, and so it likes a little more shade. So if you have shady areas and you're looking for a grass, and that comes up easily by seed, and it likes to reseed itself, but as far as in my gardens, it has not been noxious. A problem area that I've been having is right here. There's another plant that's commonly planted around foundations of old houses, and it's a dayflower, and it's a bugger to get rid of. And so that's another reason I'm planting these natives, is trying to choke some of that out. But I have been having problems because that dayflower comes up and it grows from nodes along its stem. So it's kind of lanky and it falls over, and at those little joints, it'll root and then just spread like that, which causes problems because it gets really dense and thick, and then anything below it doesn't get a lot of light. So I'm battling with that a little bit, trying not to use herbicides, but if I have another year of it just choking some things out, then I might get a little more aggressive with it. This was another one of the natives. I want to say Anise hyssop, but there's another, not hyssop, wild anise. There are two of them, and I always, wild licorice and the other one, and I always get them mixed up. Don't recall which one that is, but it is one of my natives. This was, I believe, American bellflower, which is another woodland edge, kind of woodland plant, beautiful blue flowers, spreads by itself, is kind of a early successional, so it will fizzle out as your seeding increases in density. I believe these may have been the brown-eyed Susans, these seed heads here. Here's a really good picture of that bottlebrush grass that still has some seed in the head. And then I had an aster, one of the native woodland asters. So what you can see is I've done a mix of stuff that likes, go around front again. I did a mix of stuff that likes shade and stuff that likes sun, so that because I'm going around, everything we're dealing with here is on the north side of the house, so it's a little cooler. You know what, I don't want to walk on that seating, so I'm going to go around. It's cooler, has a little more shade, and so anything in the mix that likes that will germinate and grow on this side. And then the stuff that likes more light will germinate and grow where there's more light. That's another thing that's nice about seed, is you don't have to be quite as picky. But at the same time, you know, even seed can be expensive. You don't want to be too wasteful, but in a situation like this, it works fairly well. And again, you can always come in and plant flowers or grasses that just don't do well by seed, or are going to take too long for your liking. You know, you can always come in and pop them in there anywhere you want. So let's come around front, because I started seeding the front first, so it's more dense. So yeah, these were, you can see how dense this brown-eyed Susans are. Absolutely gorgeous. Purple coneflower. Now, there's purple coneflower and pale purple coneflower. I also have pale purple in here. I know I've got penstemon digitalis in here, and one of the native roses. I think it was Carolina rose, and the native wild petunia, hairy petunia, came up and was doing well. So there are a lot of things popping up in this garden you can't see right now. Oh, the mint, Blephia, wood mint. So anyway, that's kind of a long video, but I just wanted to show you guys this, because a lot of people don't know that you need to seed in the winter for a lot of these flowers to grow and do well. So if you plant them in the spring, what happens is they don't get that cold moist stratification, so they don't get the triggers, the cues to germinate when it gets warm. So what happens is they're gonna, like, if you seed them in the spring when it's not cold enough, they're just gonna sit in the soil. And so, you know, the seed over time loses viability because they start using all the little food, the resources that are in the seed, and they start losing moisture. So you will lose some of it, but what happens is that seed's going to sit over the entire summer, the next fall, and then stratify the following winter, and then come up the following spring. And so again, if you want to speed things up, you want to make sure, and you really want to get those flowers out there fast, seed in the fall, usually after when your temperatures, the average daily temperatures, are less than 50 degrees, and you've had your first frost. So that's typically sometime in early to mid-November, depending on where you are in the Midwest, if we're talking Midwest. Other things to think about. I don't know, guys. If you guys have questions, or you've got some things to add that you think would help other people trying to do this, go ahead, post comments. But thanks for listening, and I'll check in with you guys again when I'm doing something neat.